We've, of course, been negotiating with the 49ers for about 3 years. And from the beginning, the 49ers have made it clear that they would like this to be a public facility. Some of us would have rather it be a private facility, but 49ers made it very clear that it needed to be a public facility, owned, operated, and constructed. Now, the staff's response was very consistent throughout that these discussions, because staff responded that, well, we have a city charter. The city charter is more or less like our Constitution, and our city charter requires that all public facilities be done with public bidding. The resolution of this conflict was that the city agreed, after some negotiation with the 49ers, to put it on the ballot and let the voters decide. And to that end, that was included in the term sheet, and it was pointed out by Mr. Bailey. The exact words of the term sheet, which is the basic agreement between the 49ers and the city as to how to go forward, were that we would submit a proposed charter amendment to the voters for approval. That was just in June. The essence of SB43 is who gets to make the decision on whether or not we should use public bidding to choose the general contractor.
Excuse me, question for staff. Who initiated the Senate bill process? Can you tell us that? And can you tell us if the city had an opportunity to shape the language at all?
Well, my understanding is, and the 49ers representatives are here, so they might want to comment on this later too, but my understanding is that they worked with Senator Alquist to bring forward the original draft of the bill. Our city staff was not aware of the bill at the early stages of writing, but once an initial draft was put into place, we were consulted, and we actually had quite a bit of opportunity after the initial draft to provide suggestions for changes, clarifications, some additions to it. And also the 49ers had more input into that, as well as Senator Alquist's staff and the staff of the various committees at the Senate level.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Just actually a follow-up on that. Do you recall the date that staff was made aware? Because I remember we got some information over one weekend, but was it earlier that week, or was it that? Do you recall at all the date?
I do have the specific dates, but not in my mind. Okay. I do remember hearing about it on a Wednesday and a Thursday, and then the bill coming out, the first draft of it, I think, was the following Monday. Okay. But I don't remember the specific dates. And
I had a question about the timing. It was mentioned that the city staff found out about this bill just shortly before it was introduced. Just before, introduced in Sacramento. Just before it was introduced, about a month before, we wrapped up the negotiations with the 49ers, which had gone over the course of about 2 years. Was there any mention during that period of time that something like Senate Bill 43 was going to be pursued by the 49ers?
Well, early on in our negotiations, and it came up a couple of times where the 49ers put forward the idea that they thought, at some point they might want to consider that, but we didn't know that they actually had gone forward to do that, and that it was actually being drafted. But through the 2 years, I'm sure a couple of times they mentioned that they wanted to look at other alternatives, including, a state law.
Just about a month or two after that term sheet was voted on and accepted by the majority of the city council, we got a surprise. And what had happened is we learned that the 49ers went to Sacramento and got a bill through that basically overruled our city charter and allowed the stadium to be built without public bidding and without a vote. Now, one thing that really hasn't been talked about too much tonight is why this all happened. Why, after 2 or 3 years of talking about this in a certain way and reaching a solution as to how this issue would be resolved, why there was this change of course by the 49ers. My personal belief is that the 49ers, which are constantly polling the city, came to the conclusion that they would have a better chance to get this passed if this second question of the charter change were not on the ballot. This concerns me the way that's happened. It doesn't feel right to me. It feels like we're wrestling with something bigger than ourselves, more powerful than ourselves. And given that we're about to enter into a very, very long-term relationship with this team, where we'll depend on the goodwill and the good faith of each other, it gives me some pause the way this is happening.